Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. We are so excited that you have joined us today for another. I kind of meant to go back and look and see what that name that I came up for our little series that I forgot, but you just joined us for another session with Virgil Hawkins, with the Legal Aid Society, and with our own Miss Shannon Lig. Okay, let me see, get your name right. I should have practiced this. Ligon.
Ligon.
You know,
Ligon is fine too.
yes. And all I know is I just see he's a pretty smart lawyer on your thing, so it fits. So that's what I remember all the time. And so we are super excited to have you join us today, as well as our guests. We are now live on Zoom as well as Facebook. So definitely I'm encouraging our audience to enter any questions that you may have regarding this important panel into chat. We would be definitely happy. We would definitely be happy is what I was trying to say, to answer any questions about this timely topic of housing. We were just reading over a little information prior that we were excited to share with you guys. About what is going on with this moratorium, what it looks like for housing going forward, since COVID took our lives by storm in 2020. So just for those that may not know who I am, my name is Kendra Pearson, and I am one of the administrative assistants for the Virgil Hawkins Florida Chapter National Bar Association Fellowship. Yes, all of that. But we go by the Virgil Hawkins Fellowship, and I am here with some amazing attorneys. And I'm sorry when I was mentioning everybody, I'm going to start off with her because we partner with the amazing FAMU College of Law right here in Orlando, Florida, and we have the amazing Professor Eunice Kassad. And I'll ask you just to go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience today.
Thank you, Kendra, and welcome everybody. And thank you for all who are connecting with us for this great panel. It is a great pleasure to be here today, and I'm looking forward to sharing very important information with everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. I'm telling you, every time we ask Professor Kassad to come, she just comes through, and I am very grateful because I just be adding her like she's supposed to be here. She is absolutely. So we are going to go right over to Miss Shannon Ligon, our pretty smart lawyer. She's awesome, and I'm so excited you're here. Okay, introduce yourself.
Thank you. I am a Florida A&M College of Law grad. I got my bachelor's from Florida State University as well in business management, but I come from a long line of real estate investors and developers. So I myself am a real estate investor, but I also do real estate law. Kind of choosy about my clients because landlord tenancy can get complicated in working with clients, but I generally have represented tenants and landlords. So kind of navigating through this crisis, I've also kind of gone into commercial sales because I was able to negotiate a lot of good commercial transitions for my clients. But also in this new phase of my career, I'm also working as in-house counsel for a real estate development firm. So we've actually been acquiring distressed companies, and we're owners of an amazing resort called Cape Crossing Canaveral as well. So kind of going into high-level real estate and development. But this crisis, I just hope to, shed light on some information on trends I've seen even just to this day. One of my own paralegals came in with her own real estate issue. So it's very pressing and important, because at first I was seeing tenants affected. Now I'm also seeing landlords become affected and landlords, utilizing the laws to kind of do unscrupulous things. So I'm excited to be here. This is an important matter for all.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're here. You're right. This topic is, like I said, so timely, and it's so important because a lot of people really don't know their rights, what's right, what's wrong, and people can get over or under you if you don't know what's what. So we are going over to our legal aid family. Mr. Camillo, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much. I'm Camilo Parra. I'm a housing attorney at the Legal Aid Society of the Orange County Bar Association. We're a not-for-profit law firm. We assist in a wide range of legal issues for people who are residents of Orange County and meet our financial income requirements. So we assist with housing, immigration, consumer, family law, sealing and expungement. I practice housing law, I practice consumer law, and I also assist victims of domestic violence obtain injunctions for protection against their abusers. I'm really happy to be here today. You're right, it is a very timely subject, and people need to know what are their rights, what are they up against, and what is their time frame, because we are up against a clock right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. You always come through for us too. So I'm always excited with our legal aid partners, right? They always come through for us. And we're so happy every time you come and join our panels. And look at her that took her mic off. Come on through, Miss Attorney Mayweather from the Virgil Hawkins team. Introduce yourself.
Good morning. I am so happy to be here amongst these wonderful people so that we can share some important information. I am Vernisha Mayweather. As Kendra has stated, I am one of the Virgil Hawkins Fellows.
I got it.
I assist our clients with matters dealing with landlord-tenant issues, family law, probate. That's mainly what we handle within the Virgil Hawkins Fellowship. In my own firm, I focus on Social Security disability, mainly for adults. I am just happy to be here and discuss some things.
Awesome. Thank you. And of course, that's my girl. She always come through too. I just be adding people to panels and they just show up, which is always awesome. But yeah, this is amazing. Like I said, we're gonna just jump right into it because this information is so important. We all have been affected by COVID in one way or another, or in multiple ways. And in one of the biggest ways is this housing moratorium that have been put in place to help some, and then it may not have been as much help on the other side of the board. And there's been so much back and forth, and attorneys have all, I'm sure, been busy just working through different circumstances that have arisen. So one of the things that I mean, I'm not even sure where to start. There's so much to discuss, but I guess we can start with this moratorium that was supposed to end at this month. So who wants to start with that?
Well, I'll just say fresh off the press, the CDC has extended the eviction moratorium, and it states as of right now, the extension is through July 31st, 2020. The CDC website did state that this is intended to be the final extension of the moratorium. But I mean, nonetheless, we have an extension.
So with that being an extension in place, like, what does that mean? Like because what we want to drive home, we've done updates before. Every time this moratorium, when we had the moratorium that was under our governor in place, Governor DeSantis, you know, we spoke about that, but what does this mean with the CDC moratorium being extended? What does that mean for not only the tenant, but for the landlord?
If I may, I'd like to just make sure everyone is aware of what is the actual CDC moratorium. So first, I want to point out, I don't like the word moratorium. I know it is what everyone's using, and it is kind of a moratorium, but here's why I don't like it. When you think of moratorium, you think something is prohibited, you think something is forbidden, it's not allowed. That's not quite what this is. What the CDC order really is it's a very limited form of relief for some tenants against some types of evictions. So I'll try to break down what that means. Bottom line, it's not automatic. You don't just have it. Everyone sitting out there, myself included, I'm also a tenant. Just because you're a tenant in the United States does not mean you automatically have these protections. In order to be protected, there's a very specific document called the CDC Declaration, which you need to get a hold of. You need to read it. Make sure you understand it. Make sure everything in that thing is true, because when you sign it, you're swearing that every single thing in that document is either understood by you or true in your circumstance. So the first 5 statements are just like eligibility requirements. It's like you're not making too much money, you're having some sort of financial hardship, you're trying to pay your rent. Those are the eligibility requirements. The last 3 parts of that document, it's 1 page. Anyone can Google it right now. See, it's just 1 page. The last 3 statements are things that you're swearing you understand about this order. I like to describe it as the limitations of the order. And that's something I think it's well worth spending a couple minutes on. What does this order not do? Because a lot of people don't have that clear yet. So first of all, it's not automatic. Until you've signed this document, given it to your landlord, it doesn't apply to you. Simply does not apply. The other big misconception is people think that as long as you've signed it and given it to your landlord, then all is good, you're in the clear, they can't open a case, you don't have to worry about anything. That's not quite the case. Once you've given that document to your landlord, all you've really done is made sure that the very last step of the eviction process, the writ of possession, which we'll talk in a little bit, I'm sure we'll go into it. The very last step of eviction is the only thing that you're preventing by submitting this document to your landlord. Also, if you don't let the courts know, like let's say your landlord opens an eviction case against you, if you don't let the courts know, you're not going to have these protections. So you need to also submit a copy to the courts. I don't want to take everyone's time talking. Does anyone else have any input? We'll just discuss it.
Oh, no, I think you're doing great, Camilo, but I just wanted to piggyback. I think one of the big reasons the moratorium got extended is because federal government did issue a huge relief packet, big chunk of money assigned for housing relief. And although those monies have been going out, it has been kind of slow. So I just want to let our audience out there know that that money is still available. It is up to you to check with your local government, your county, your city, as to the relief program they have for assistance, for rental assistance, and apply for that as a relief for the back rent that is owed. Like Camilo very well explained, this is a very limited relief, and it's intended to help people who have right now probably over 12 months, in some cases, of back due rent, to try to help them with that. So I just wanted to put it out there that keep looking and searching for the different programs for local government and state government that apply to you in regards to rental assistance.
And just to piggyback off of what Professor Kassad just mentioned about the programs, we had a client who did not think that he qualified for one of the programs, but after we reviewed his situation, we were able to craft a way for him to qualify. So I would highly advise that you seek counsel in trying to figure out if there are options to you. Don't give up. Don't give up.
And I was just going to say, the form Camilo was referring to, it is such a simple form, but people think things are automatic. This is a process. And if you look at the very bottom on the footnote of the form, it actually tells you consult with a housing expert. So depending on what hat sometimes we're wearing when we're giving advice, whether it's advising a tenant or advising a landlord, I wanted to say this is a process. It's a legal process. So some of the advice we're giving, it depends if you're a landlord, a tenant, if this is residential or commercial, because what I wanted to also say, even with the moratoriums on these things, there still has been litigation. There's been cases in California, there's been cases in Georgia, which impact us here in Florida, because there's cases here in Florida where landlords have even been litigating during this pandemic, trying to get people evicted and or make their stakes and get claims for judgment and pass due rents and things, which is important because that's some of the defenses and or things landlords and tenants need to do to mitigate their claims and their damages, trying to find new tenants that are willing and able. So some of this case law that's been litigated out of California, I as if I'm a landlord and advising my landlord clients, I'm telling them, hey, you have to be mindful, even if it's residential or commercial, what advice we're giving them, because the case law, even with these moratoriums, is still opening the door and giving us some legal angles depending on, you know, who we're representing. So again, get with an attorney that's, you know, experienced in this, because the laws change by the day. Just as we, you know, looking today thinking, hey, by the end of June, the moratorium is going to end, just with the click of overnight, you know, it was extended by the, you know, CDC. So even, you know, with the executive orders here in Florida, things change all the time. So again, it's a process, and just, you know, continue to follow up with things, because just because you turn in your eviction protection declaration form, you know, that's a small start in a process, depending on, you know, what side of the table you're on.
Absolutely. Now, I did have a question, because we were speaking of, like, from our side, like my side, I'm a renter, right? So I get this form, I sign it, I turn it into my landlord. But what, from the landlord side, what is the steps, like once you receive that document from a tenant, like what next? I asked Attorney Shannon, since she deals with that side a lot. Oh, you still muted, Counselor. You muted.
Shannon, you're muted.
So that is part of the process. I'm sorry about that. When you are part of the landlord, which, you know, becomes challenging if you're representing the landlord, because when this crisis first hit, I had landlords calling saying, hey, what do I do? They already saw the writing on the wall with their tenants, and smart tenants know how to play the legal game with the time and the service and evading eviction. So with landlords, I had some clients saying, hey, I know I can't move forward, but I still want to file my eviction process. So when this is lifted, I can get them evicted. So again, with the tenant's responsibility is to turn it into the landlord, but that's the issues I'm just seeing as of today. I had, again, one of my paralegals come and say, hey, I just put in my notice, which was timely, to say I'm moving, but this landlord say, hey, I already spent your security deposit. And so now I'm seeing landlords utilizing these laws to their advantage, you know, that are harming the tenants. So again, we have to be mindful on if they're utilizing the eviction protection declaration form and programs, landlords also have a duty and a responsibility to own it, and for them not to violate the laws and do self-eviction. So those were some real live concerns I saw when this crisis first hit. And now with things changing, because now, you know, from wearing my landlord hat and advocating for, you know, as investors, you know, we are also being harmed because we're not getting rents. People are holding over on their tenancies. And, you know, now with the, you know, I just became a tenant myself from becoming a homeowner, because I saw the housing market going up and boom. I said, I'm going to cash out while my property's paid off. I'm going to wait till it booms so I can buy up some of these things. But now I live in a high rent district in downtown Orlando. So again, you know, I'm just an advocate for people just to do the right thing, you know, and let's follow the law. So as a landlord, sometimes you can make your claim and start the eviction process, but the judges are, you know, kind of in a bind upholding the federal law moratoriums and really can't move forward with the process. So again, it depends on what side of the table you're sitting on.
Right.
And also keep in mind that this is only regarding non-payment of rent. So landlords can move forward on evictions for other reasons other than non-payment of rent.
And that's non-payment of rent that's due to COVID, right? COVID circumstance, right? Or is it just?
No. So as far as the CDC
hardships,
exactly, as far as the CDC order is concerned, so this isn't the same for like rental assistance programs and other forms of relief, but for the CDC order, you do not have to have a direct link between your financial hardship and COVID. There just has to be an actual financial hardship that is taking place right
now. Wow.
And that goes to the example Vernicia spoke earlier, the gentleman, that he was in a financial hardship. It wasn't directly due to COVID. And because the information that was first put out there, everything was regarding COVID, he believed that he didn't qualify. I think he even had gone to agencies and was told he didn't qualify on a direct link with COVID. So that's another thing to the audience, insist, okay? You've been told here, it doesn't have to be directly linked to COVID, at least not now. So, and this gentleman was able to receive assistance for rental. assistance and catch up. So, you know, it was a great success story. You know, it was an elderly person, so it becomes yet a little bit more concerning.
Yes.
You know, that is one of the communities that have been highly affected, or the situation of, you know, affordability and housing availability has been exacerbated because of COVID. So we were happy that that was the outcome in that specific case, and he was able to get that resolved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, with us, because, you know, we are, I mean, I know we got about 6 more days of it, but we're at the end of June. So even with the extension of this moratorium, like another 31, you know, days, give or take, but, and it's like the end, what is some of the things that well, one, I have a question, like, I'm curious about what we will see, like, what are we expecting to see during that time, like afterward, but also what would you advise for our audience? Like, what do you need to do to prepare yourself properly for this time, knowing that maybe you're 12 months behind in rent, and or whatever the situation may be, or maybe you're that landlord that has somebody that's 12 months behind in rent. Like, on both sides, what should we be preparing ourselves for here?
I would advise people to go ahead and apply for these programs. I've spoken with some of the representatives with the programs, and surprisingly, they haven't had a lot of applicants, and that's concerning. Like, there's no reason that one should not apply. And if you're the landlord, encourage your tenant to apply. It's a win-win.
In some cases, the landlord can go ahead and apply first. So it kind of just varies program. And I will echo Bernice's statement. The most important thing to be doing right now, landlord and tenant alike, is if money is the problem, if it's a non-payment issue, you need to be applying for rental assistance today. Do not waste a second, because the programs, they're not going to get you money in days. Could take weeks. I've seen cases where it takes months. Apply.
Yeah, as of May 18th, just within the city of Orlando, we had been awarded $8.6 million in COVID-19 relief funds from the U.S. Department of Treasury, and that was just for emergency rental assistance. So the fact, like Bernice said, that these funds and these programs aren't being utilized, to me says it's a communication issue, because I know the need is there. So I think doing more things like this, putting the information out there, but most importantly, getting the information to those in need, because I feel like as a landlord, you know, that's important for us to know, like, if you're not paying me rent, this program can help you. And again, lawyers are creative in helping people to apply for these, because sometimes people are getting denied because they're saying, hey, you have too much gross income coming in that house. But then you have to really look at it and break down the finances, say, well, hey, maybe that really didn't qualify because it wasn't in that 12-month window. It was really because they were getting, you know, grants or something from a summer job, didn't qualify. And, you know, however many people we can play around with what truly qualifies for household and permanency and things like that. So the money is there. We just need to get the information to the people that are in need. So I encourage everybody to go on orlando.gov. Even in our city parks and recreations, you know, you can walk right in, you know, to our local parks and recreations and apply right there if you have all your financial stuff. So the information's out there, but, you know, I'm glad Virgil Hawkins and, you know, our legal aid societies are doing things like that so we can get the information out there to those that need it.
And if you don't know where to look, start from the city level, then go to the county level, then go to the state level. I mean, just look, keep looking. There are funds out there.
Just hopping online, something will pop up. I know that, you know, there's a 211 line as well. They can give referrals. Contact your legal services, your local legal services, legal aid, bar association that is there locally. Somebody will be able to direct you in the right direction. I would add that in addition to applying for any rental assistance is to continue communicating with your landlord. I know this was something that we were very big on at the beginning of COVID. I think that it's still important to have those line of communication still open. I would hope that at this juncture, it's been over a year that has happened. You know, just like Shannon indicated, this has affected landlords as well. They have mortgages to pay a lot of times on these properties, so they're behind themselves. They want to get this resolved too. So having open lines of communication with your landlords, trying to figure out maybe a payment plan, or, you know, a plan if you're going to eventually have to move out. That will be another one, is having that plan B, plan C. You know, what's going to happen at the time that you have to move out. And unfortunately, once this moratorium definitely expires, that is going to be the reality for many, many people. I think the latest data that has come out through several news reports and media reports is that countrywide, it's about 6 million people are expected to be severely affected once the moratorium does expire. As we know, there are several states around the nation that really have not given or recognized the authority of the CDC and this moratorium. So they basically have allowed to evictions to go ahead and proceed regardless of the financial hardship, even if it's COVID related or not. So it is an issue. It is a big concern. That is why we keep encouraging everybody, just go out and apply for these financial rental assistance programs. They are there for a reason, and it is to assist you.
Can I just say one thing that you said? You said something, follow up and get in contact with their landlord if there's issues. But also I just want to say, like, put things in writing. I think as lawyers, we're used to typing in writing, but that was something I was just telling them today, like, send her a letter and put it in writing, because often if there's an issue or a landlord did do a wrongful eviction or right of possession, we can use that as evidence too, to show, you know, this tenant was showing their financial hardship. They put everything in writing. Even, you know, I've seen landlords, you know, coming in to show things without putting the right of entry. Document that, because those are things, you know, are even actionable too to get you damages. So it's so important to put things in writing, take pictures. And the communication part was so important, because I was able to successfully negotiate down past due rents in a tenant out of a commercial lease into the other one without, you know, litigation or him having to worry about, you know, potential judgment. So again, communication is so important, and putting things in writing is so important too, because as lawyers can use that, you know, to help defend or prosecute, you know, claims as well.
I'd love to follow up. I think you brought up something great. So communication, and this is a follow-up to both Ms. Kausad and also Ms. Lagon. Communication should be plan A. That should be the first thing, your first method of defense, for a number of reasons. I think most importantly, and keep in mind, what I'm saying right now is very much for tenants. I'm a housing attorney at the Legal Aid Society. I only assist tenants, but this could help landlords and tenants alike. Once that eviction is filed against you in Florida, you're stuck with that thing. If there's a way to prevent that thing from being filed, which usually the only way to prevent that thing from being filed is communication with the landlord, open communication, letting them know that you're applying for rental assistance, keeping them updated as to the status of your rental assistance. That is your first and foremost concern, is keeping that thing from being filed. Why? Once it's filed in Florida, it is a blemish on your rental history until our laws change. We do not have a way in Florida to expunge or seal an eviction record from your history. It's public records, and it will remain such until our laws change and provide us with a way to remove it. So we have lots of tenants right now who they have an eviction on their record. Even if they didn't actually get evicted, maybe they moved out before the eviction took place. Maybe they figured something out with the landlord and the case was voluntarily dismissed. That's all great. But that eviction is still on their record. When they go to apply for rent for a new place to stay, it's going to come up on the background search. Most places are not very sophisticated in figuring out, was this a good case? Was this a bad case? Were you evicted? Who won? Who lost? Dismissal? They're not going to sit there and dig through 50 pages of court documents. They just want to know yes or no. Is there an eviction on your record? And in some cases, maybe how recent, and in some cases, is the case still open or closed? So if you think that you can talk your landlord out of opening that case in the first place, that is your number one priority, because once it's on your record, it is there forever. What I say often, because I think it's an easy way to summarize it, is filed is forever. As far as evictions go in Florida, filed is forever.
That's such good info. And that's right. If I'm wearing my landlord hat, because I had a situation, I was this time last year, probably like March, I'll never forget. I was buying a property with my mom, and we were buying it from people that, someone else that had just bought it, but we knew there were tenants in there. And my mom was making friendly with them, but I knew this moratorium was lingering. And I said, Mom, if they're smart tenants, they're not going to move. We're going to have an issue with the house we own with no tenants paying. And because they were communicative with us, we told them, I said, look, you can stay there up into our closing, because truly we don't own it and take possession up until then. But I got so mad at my mom that she put an offer on this place with tenants in there, knowing, because we had just got out of an issue where we had just unfortunately evicted someone. But again, communication in that instance, because as a landlord, we don't want to expend additional time, attorney's fees, and costs when I don't have to, because I'm already out of the back rent. So that's why I have to remind my mom. I said, you're not paying the true bill and attorney's fees for this, so you don't see the gravity of what I'm saying. But when as landlord clients come to me, when they're having to put up a $2,500, $5,000 retainer for a lawyer to go through this process, that's why I tell them, have you talked to your tenant? What can we work out with them? Because if I can save them that blemish on their mark, oftentimes, we want to work things out. So that was very good advice, Attorney Parr, on that. Communication is so important in this business.
Even if it's to buy you extra time. A lot of times tenants, what they need, it's a little bit extra time. We all know that right now the housing market in our area is crazy. It's hard to buy a house. It's super easy to sell one right now. But when it comes to tenants and rent, it is, there's basically no inventory. So, tenants do need a little bit of time. So maybe talking to that landlord and just trying to negotiate, an exit plan that will work for everybody, and kind of minimize, mitigate, or totally avoid an eviction action being filed for the reasons that Camilo has just expressed. It is going to be coming up on your background check when they do your background checks and you apply for a new place. It's going to impact your credit, definitely, especially if they file an eviction. It will be on your credit. So, and people in Florida don't realize that when there's a judgment against you, especially for damages or money, they're good for 20 years. So I would think that many of these landlords or property managements would be smart enough that if this individual was in a financial hardship, not to proceed with like garnishment cases, but who knows? But yeah, that's so important to know as well, that, it's trying to avoid an eviction action being filed, just filed, not even, going all the way to a final judgment or settlement. It's just trying to avoid the filing.
And if you don't feel comfortable speaking with your landlord, or if you're a landlord, you don't feel comfortable speaking with your tenant, contact an attorney. We can assist with that. We can assist with negotiating whatever it is, an exit plan, or we can just assist. I will say that in my experience with these evictions, when I speak with tenants, they are stuck. They're stuck because they feel like they're in a hard place. They don't know what to do. The first step that you can do, the first step that you can take, is call one of us. And if money is an issue, which obviously it likely is, then there are programs like the Legal Aid and Virgil Hawkins Fellowship that can assist you. And there are other attorneys who may provide free consultations that can give you some information about your possible options. Just don't sit and do nothing.
Right.
You have time.
And sometimes, right. And sometimes that's what the problem is. People are emotionally, physically, and psychologically stuck and depressed. And sometimes that's why I tell people, when you're hiring a lawyer or engaging with some of these legal aid societies, that's what a lawyer is. They call us counselors at law. So when you're embarking and getting in representation with us, that often, we can battle through some of those things, because it's just, a psychological problem. People are just going through these issues. So oftentimes we can help you navigate those spaces. And you guys brought up another trend that I've kind of been experiencing and seeing, which is important in Florida. While we're kind of creditor and debtor protected as land or for our homestead, what I have seen is a rise in HOAs. And I actually went that through my last sale where my personal property was in Orange County. I lived in one of the biggest HOAs. So when I actually sold my property, I had 31 liens on it. That sounds crazy, but it only was a couple $100, but it scared away my first buyer during the height of COVID. So that's why I call my HOA. And so when people get these letters, you're behind on your rent, they're often coming from law firms that are working as debt collectors. So that's why if they have representation, get you representation, because I just did a collection call resolution for one of my corporate clients yesterday. And just off that one phone call, I was able to get it from, get it down from $15,000. So, having an attorney to help you go through this process, we can also help negotiate some of these fees and or get you out of a bad situation, because sometimes we're just mentally stuck and exhausted from being in these financial crises. Either way.
Yeah. And talking about the mental and physical exhaustion, I mean, people are drained, and because they're drained, they're stuck. And the one thing that they shouldn't do at any time is ignore the situation in hope that it's going to go away, because it will not go away. So it is very important to know that any communication that you get from your landlord, any communication that you get, especially from court, do not ignore. It will not go away. You definitely need to address it. If you get stuck in addressing that situation, by all means, do reach out to an attorney. Either somebody, a private attorney, or, a public interest attorney, legal aid, legal services, Virgil Hawkins, FAMU. Call one of us. We'd be more than happy to walk you through and explain you the process. So please, please do not ignore any communications you receive in regards of your tenancy if you are definitely in trouble with it.
It's better to ask.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say it's better to ask wrong than to not ask at all, because I remember the first housing crisis. I actually started at my law firm doing foreclosure defense, but I remember a lot of my clients that were tenants in Osceola and Kissimmee were Spanish. They couldn't read some of the paperwork. So take it to an attorney for that. And also they were like, I didn't pay it any attention because it wasn't from my mortgage from my bank. It didn't say Bank of America. That's who I signed my mortgage with, not realizing Bank of America entered a pooling and servicing agreement. They sold your loan. So again, even if you think it's not important or not from your mortgage or not, there's different companies that manage the HOAs in your apartment complex. So if it's regarding your housing or residency or commercial property, please, pay it attention and have someone, review it.
Right. And with reviewing it, so there are laws that we have to comply with. So just because they give you something doesn't mean that it has complied with the necessary rules, regulations, statutes, the notices that you receive. Make sure that you note when you received it, how you received it. And like Shannon and Professor Kassad have stated, make sure you go ahead and provide it to someone who has legal knowledge about these things so they can advise you whether or not it's actually in compliance, because it might not be what it needs to be. Yes. I just had a brain freeze. Sorry. But yeah, so just if when in doubt, ask for help. Don't guess.
I can attest there are a lot of bad notices out there. I think on any given week, I might read 5, 15, 20 bad notices that if you just point out to the other side that they're a bad notice and you do it timely and you don't wait and sit on it, hopefully it'll correct the situation. So definitely reach out. You wouldn't believe how many cases you don't even have to go in front of a judge, can be taken care of with a quick phone call or a quick email just explaining, look, you didn't give the proper notice. Correct this notice, please. Always be respectful, of course. And if you fall in that situation, I cannot stress enough, you should be looking for legal advice, because they're going to be able to do it in the most strategic manner and hopefully in the most respectful manner as well. Because I know it is really hard when you're going through this to separate your emotions and separate yourself from the issue. I mean, one thing I often bring up to people is, I get it. This is your home. This is your house. This is your roof. This is your livelihood. It's where your family stays. But to them, the business. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. It is a business to them. It's their livelihood. It's how they put food on the table. So the idea here is communicate. Don't hide from these issues. One analogy that's a little bit gruesome, but I think it's very effective, that I've heard from a mentor of mine pretty recently is, if you're bleeding out and you just ignore it, you're gonna die.
Right.
No, that's a really gruesome analogy, but this is kind of similar. If you're behind in your HOA payments and you just wait and you ignore these notices and it keeps adding interest, it keeps adding collection costs, that's going to turn into a debt. You might lose your home because you're not dealing with it the moment it's been notified to you that it's an issue. So please don't hide your head in the sand. The moment you get something that you don't know what it is or you don't like it, reach out to someone, try to figure it out and try to correct it.
Great
And that's-
info.
And that's extremely important. People must realize that, at least in Florida, when it comes to landlord-tenant, it's a civil procedure, but it's a summary civil procedure. So what that means is these cases run super quickly. They don't course as normal civil cases would do. So it is very possible that from beginning to end, depending how involved and responsive a tenant is, an eviction case can run its course within 2 to 3 weeks. I know right now with COVID, that might not be the case. The court system is backed up, it's backlogged. But if you have an attorney who is very persistent, that's representing the landlord, they can make it happen. So this is not something to, take on lightly. It is serious. It could affect you in a long term, in a very short period of time. Again, I cannot stress enough how important it is to address any situation, especially any communications that you get from your landlord, and especially the court.
Professor Casada and I recently had a case together where there was an eviction involving a mobile home. And the plaintiff's attorney predicated their eviction action on the wrong authority.
Yeah.
But we caught it at the 11th hour. We caught it at the as in the sheriff's department was at her door asking her to leave, giving her a 24-hour notice.
At a risk of sounding too nerdy, did they do Chapter 83 instead of Chapter 723?
Yes.
Very common, very common.
And see, and the thing is, these are tenants, they don't know it.
Right.
It takes somebody like us with, a certain degree of expertise in the area, right, to catch these things. Because as you all know, once that final judgment is in, that writ of possession is issued and then posted, not executed, but posted, the window of opportunity to reverse that action is practically non-existent. It has to be something like in this instance that definitely there was, an error committed by not only the plaintiff, but the court. And this could have been avoided if they would have reached out to somebody from the get-go, from the very beginning. So, that's the situation that we're dealing with in these cases. And I mean, normally landlord-tenant cases, they're very quick, like I mentioned earlier. So things have to be taken care of immediately. And it's very common for tenants to come to us at the 11th hour, especially when they've already been served with a writ to take care of matters, but it happens. So we're waiting. I don't know if, Vernicia, I don't know if anything, if a decision has come down on that.
We're waiting on the order. The 24th hour is around 2:00 today.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. I had a similar situation. My client was behind, past due on rent, writ of possession entered, and she called me, thankfully, in those slim little 5 days, and we actually had the hearing. And I was so thankful. And this is why I'm all for Zoom court and going to court online. It's made life easier, and I've been a champion for digital and technology before it was a thing. So I'm happy for online. But in this specific instance, I think had I not had physical court, I don't think I would have been successful in defending my client. I found out that the eviction complaint was not even filed by the landlord. It was filed by a sister. And because they looked alike and had similar Indian names, it kind of navigated through. But not till I got into court and started questioning, the plaintiff and the landlord and all of this, did it come out. So not only were we successful on getting the complaint removed, I also got attorney's fees for it from my time. And then the plaintiffs also got, admonished by the judge, for fraudulently filing an eviction complaint. So again, tenants think they don't have rights just because they're past due on rent. You do have rights, because sometimes there's a legal issue your lawyers are able to catch that you might not necessarily see on the face of what you're going through. So again, utilize my colleagues' great services in our legal aid societies.
Yeah, I mean, especially during these times, everybody's desperate, especially landlords. They're not getting paid, right? And maybe the availability of assistance to them is not as much as for tenants. There is some. So, they might resort to unscrupulous actions, prohibited practices is what the statute calls it, in order to regain possession of those premises. And a lot of times tenants may have an inkling that it may not be legal, but I'm not quite sure. So it is not until they come to us that we can figure it out and try to put a stop to it. And if they do it in a timely manner, we can probably, nib it in the butt before it's even filed, because like Camilo had mentioned earlier, it's just a matter of making a phone call, sending an email, and letting them know, hey, what you're doing is not correct. So you need to cease and desist. Now, just to clarify, we have these instances where this happens and we're able to avoid these situations, but that does not take away that they cannot correct what they were doing wrong and try it again in the right manner. Now they know they're being, checked on and somebody's watching them. So chances are that if they proceed, they will proceed on the correct way. Again, there's unscrupulous landlords out there that will keep trying doing it the wrong way. They have no in their game. So, but for the most part, once they're called out that they're doing something wrong, that they're doing something illegal, that they could be liable, in some instances up to 3 months rent, they'll stop it. And then what they'll do, they'll either do it correctly or find themselves an attorney to assist them with the process.
And that's good, you guys. Oh, go ahead. Attorney Parent.
That 3 times month of rent is for each individual violation.
Incident.
So let's say, and maybe it's worth taking a second. This is for landlords and tenants alike. Some tips on how to avoid getting sued as far as being a landlord. You're not supposed to use anything but the courts to remove a tenant. If you shut off utilities, if you change the locks, if you make it harder for the tenant to have reasonable access to the property. I'll give you an example. I had a tenant before who was disabled, and this landlord knew that she didn't do well with steps. So this landlord locked every single door in the house except for the one door that had steps, because he had no problem taking the steps. That is still a clear violation. Other examples of things you're not supposed to do: don't take your tenant's stuff and then try and mess with their stuff to remove them from the property. It's also prohibited. Pretty much any situation where the landlord is taking the law into his or her own hands to try to remove the tenant from the property while going around the prescribed eviction process under Florida statute is a violation, and each individual violation. So you turn off the utilities today, they get them put back on tomorrow, and then you change them again tomorrow. That's 3 times months of rent twice alone, or more if there's damages that exceed those 3 times months of rent. So there is real teeth to this. It is something that should not take place, and it is, in my opinion, one of the most egregious things we're seeing currently. Is there are landlords, and I get it, we're going through some tough times, and some landlords are doing this out of desperation, but they're going to put themselves in a much worse financial place by doing these unscrupulous acts and violating the law. So if you're a tenant in that situation, please, please, please reach out to your local legal aid organization. That's the kind of case that we put at the top of priority, is making sure that your rights are not tread upon.
That's good. This has been really some really great information, and I definitely encourage those of us, whoever's watching on Zoom or Facebook Live, if you have any questions, now is the time, because I don't want to go around the room asking everyone what they charge per hour for a consultation. So you guys, you have 4 experts here right now that can answer these questions for you, because if you have the question, someone else has that same question. And the common theme that has been going and flowing from everyone has been just across the board: communication. That the big C, right? Just be able to communicate, not being afraid to present. Okay, we know you behind in rent or in mortgage or what have you. You're not alone. So don't be ashamed. You know, a lot of times shame and you know, different things keep pride, maybe keep you from asking for help, but seek help. You have the services here. You have people here that are dedicating their time and energy to just make sure you're properly informed, that you can come and get, you know, and ask them questions, even if it's reading over a document, because that reading over that document, they are trained to catch the smallest details, you know, and I just thank God for them on a daily basis, because that's not my gift, but it's theirs, right? They go to school for this. They have experience in this, just like with Vernisha and Professor Kassad, you know, catching that one error, you know, may have bought their client some time, or maybe have even just maybe fix the problem altogether. Who knows? You know, communication, as Attorney Shannon said, you know, communicating with your landlord is so important. If you can avoid the issue of going to court, you know, and if you don't know how to say the words, these attorneys know the words to say. They can write some words on a document that will make people pay attention. You know, that'll give them some food for thought. But we don't know this. Like, I'm here with you guys. I am an assistant to them. And I am learning just like you. You don't want an eviction like in Florida. You know, the first time I heard that was on a panel just like this one that informed me that if I was ever evicted, that that it would be on my record and it would make it so much harder. And why would you want something to be harder in a time where the housing is low, like rentals are, you know, because people are still moving to Florida every day. So that means the number of houses, even though you see all these apartments going up, then the pricing of homes are going up, you know. So it's like, if you can work it out, and if an attorney can assist you in doing just that, then consult your attorney, whether it's from the landlord side, whether it's from the tenant side, just being able to just meet somewhere in the middle, even if it is not. In a panel that we had just recently, one of our other attorneys for legal aid, Mr. J, Attorney J, he said that he was like, the outcome still may not be what you desire, but you know, you're getting that information that you need in order to make an informed decision, in order to move further, you know, in the direction that you need to go. You still maybe have to leave, maybe you have to move, maybe you have to do something different. But having that knowledge ahead of time so you can prepare and not wait until the 23rd and a half hour, and now it's too late. You know, and it may be too late. But just having that information. So we thank you guys so much for attending this panel. I was hoping that we'd had more questions, but you know what, you were so informative. You probably took the questions out of their mouths and answered it. But what I do want, I'm going to go around the panel and ask for some last remarks and you know, an advisement for our community, because that's what we do this for. We do this for our community to make sure that they are informed. If you come to our page, you go to legal aid page, you go to Attorney Shannon's page, you know, any page, you're going to get information. You're going to get help. You're going to get, and if you can, we can help you. We point you in the right direction to go, because it may not be something we can handle, but we can point you. You can point you to where you can get additional help. There are, and it's like, just try. Whether it's, okay, if you applied for that rental assistance, maybe last year and it was so COVID related that it didn't apply, try again. You know, this is your life. Just like Attorney Camille said, this is your life. This is your home. This is your livelihood that we're talking about here. And if you won't fight for it, then how can, you know, you expect anybody else to? And by your first step is consulting one of these amazing attorneys, getting that much needed help, and understanding this is not a dumb question. If you don't understand, get an understanding. It starts there, knowing what your options are. It starts there. Waiting, not waiting until the last minute. It starts there. As far as I know, anything you put in the earth, especially if it's something, it can, guess what? You hide it in the earth, it'll grow. And sometimes it grows in a way that you don't want it to grow, and it produces some things that you don't want it to produce. Just go ahead and bring that thing, no matter how ugly it is. Say, hey, this is my mess. These attorneys have seen it. There's nothing they have not seen. I mean, you might be new. You know, yours might have that little extra twist. I don't know. But guess what? It just adds to their experience when they are able to help the next one. So, okay, so we are going to start going around. Attorney Kassad, can you give us some closer remarks and some advice? What would you advise?
Just to recap what you just said, it's a matter of reaching out for help. Reaching out for help for rental assistance program, reaching out for help for legal consult. Again, I mean, everybody who's on this panel, I'm not sure about Ms. Shannon, maybe on a pro bono basis, but we do offer free legal services as long as you're income eligible. Chances are that you might be if you're in a situation of financial hardship, especially due to COVID. So it's a matter of reaching out. I want to thank the Virgil Hawkins and the other panelists for this yet another opportunity to be with you and share information to the community. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was so caught up. I'm sorry. Attorney Shannon. Yes.
I just want to say thank you guys for this platform. Thank you for the invitation. I do work pro bono, but I do it through the service of working through the Florida bar. I've sat on their housing, done defense hurricane victims, and also then I also volunteer in Miami for Dade County and do their landlord tenancy. So, however, I'm also open for hire as well. But I thank you guys for doing this. It's such a pressing need. Like literally, I invited the people that called me today. So continue to do great work. My last comments are just everyone do the right thing, whether landlord or tenants. And then also my last comment is do it in writing. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. It doesn't exist if it's not in writing, right? Or caught on film, maybe. But Attorney Camilio.
Thank you. I'm going to echo something you stated earlier that I really liked. Bring us your mess. Life is messy. Don't be ashamed of it. We're all messy. We all got messy stuff going on. Life happens. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody is struggling. So just please don't hide from these issues. Reach out for help as soon as possible. And I can't speak for every organization across the country, but I'll tell you here where I work, we are compassionate, we are patient, and we're diligent. If we can help you, we will certainly try. So you have no time to waste and you have nothing to lose. Just pick up the phone, call. If you're not eligible, maybe we'll point you in the right direction. If not, maybe we can actually represent you. Just try. Don't just give up.
Right, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Attorney Venetia.
I'm thankful for this opportunity again to discuss this matter with my fellow panelists. I can't talk right now, my mouth's dry. I want to point out that there have been some links that have been posted in the chat by the panelists. Please utilize them. Like, don't just sit on this information that's been provided. Reach out to us. Apply today, today for one of these programs. Today. Like, don't wait. Please don't wait. And just to let you know, like, a lot of us have been where you are. There's no shame. So we know how to assist you with navigating this, not just from a professional aspect, but from personal as well. So don't sit on this, be proactive, put pride aside. And I'd love to have a come to Jesus talk with you. Like, I don't mind talking to you, helping you figure out how to figure this out, because we're all in this together. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. All right. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you for taking us to church.
Right? Pass the plate and everything. But yes, for real. But yeah, and I mean, just this panel has been everything. And then, like I said, it's so timely. We didn't even think, we know, I mean, of course, we know we're in COVID and coming out of it, and things are opening up. And so we knew that this information would be helpful, but we didn't know in planning it that it would be so timely, like right now, like necessary. But it's like, no pride, this is for our community. If you can be helped by it, share this video, share it to help somebody else, because someone doesn't know. We run across that all the time where how, the saying is, I was today's years old when I learned it, or learned something, people are today's years old when they learn that they're eventually gonna stay with you forever. It'll be here if you live in Florida. And then it will hurt you forever, But if you can prevent it, why not? That's all we're saying. If you have people that have the knowledge, you go to a doctor when you're not feeling good. So why would you not go to an attorney when you have a paper, whether and like Attorney Para said, sometimes they're not real. It's not right. You're getting these notices and it's not correct. But if you run and turn and hide, you done lost your chance to correct that, to call, for them to call on your behalf, or to get that situation, like with the Virgil Hawkins team, and Professor Kassad, helping that tenant at the last hour to realize that the wrong document, or even with Attorney Shannon with the, finding the wrong name signed and filed this document. It's not right. I don't know that. All I know is I got a document because I'm a citizen and I'm not an attorney and I'm not a professional. I'm one of you guys, right? Sitting here trying to pay my rent too, trying to make it happen on a daily basis. We're all in this struggle together. Nobody's higher than one, but what we all have in common is that we all have the ability to open our mouths and ask for help, and to do our best to make it happen for us. We're all in this together. You got, like Attorney Mayweather said, there's plenty of information on these panels. If you apply again. You never know. I mean, things are changing so much, where it was so COVID related. Now it's like, I didn't know, man, I might need to take a link. But you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know that you could apply if you didn't. If it wasn't COVID related, I'm like, say what? Yeah. You might see my name, don't play, but thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to all of our guests. Thank you for joining us on Zoom, on Facebook Live. We appreciate you, and we hope you have an amazing day. Our next panel that is coming up on the 30th of June is one that is talking all about immigration. So if that is something topic that interests you, we'd love to see you here again. And if you know someone that can use that information, because it's something that we don't talk about, but we want to take this knowledge, give it to the community. And as I say on each of these panels, knowledge is powerful, but that application of that knowledge is even more powerful. That's what makes a difference. It does you no good to get all this great information, to not share it, and to not apply it to your lives. So thank you. Have an amazing day.